"If you're so smart," the man sneered, slamming a stack of contracts onto the counter with the flat of his hand, "then translate this." His words cut like a blade through the warm air of the Blue Moon Diner in Chicago's South Loop. Forks froze midair. Even the old jukebox in the far corner seemed to hush its soulful Motown tune. But Amara Jones didn't flinch. She merely glanced at the thick pile of papers before her. Hearth's merger agreement, the one that had stumped 3 of Chicago's priciest lawyers, and blinked once. At 19, black, wearing a faded gray apron that smelled faintly of fries and coffee, Amara stood taller in that moment than the man in the navy suit glaring at her. Elliot Caldwell wasn't used to being challenged. At 48, he'd built Caldwell Tech from a tiny coding shop in Seattle to a billion-dollar empire headquartered in Chicago's gleaming loop. His presence in boardrooms was legendary, piercing blue eyes, a jawline sharp as glass, always 3 steps ahead of his rivals. But tonight, he wasn't in a glass tower. He was in a diner with chipped Formica tables and flickering neon, because his billion-dollar merger, the one that would cement him among tech titans, was crumbling. He needed a place to think. Amara was just bringing him coffee when she noticed the creases on his brow, the red ink scribbled along the margins of a clause labeled conditional termination due to market volatility. "You look like you're wrestling a bear," she said, a soft smile as she set down the mug. Elliot didn't look up. "It's a contract. You wouldn't get it." "I could," she replied. And that's when he snapped. Amara stood still, one hand on her hip, the other reaching for a nearby notepad. "This the whole contract?" she asked, voice calm. Elliot raised an eyebrow. "Does it matter?" "It does," she said. "Context changes everything." He didn't answer, just shrugged as if indulging a child playing with something dangerous, then watched. Amara's fingers moved over the pages with an odd grace. Her eyes, dark and focused, scanned the text at a startling speed. The diner hummed with low chatter and the clink of cutlery, but she seemed to step into a silent dimension where only logic existed. "This clause," she pointed to a paragraph, "lets the other side walk if your stock drops over 7% post-announcement." Elliot blinked. "Not wrong." Amara nodded, still reading. "It's vague on what counts as market volatility. That's a loophole. Too much wiggle room. Plus, their escrow demand, $400 million locked with no release conditions. That's not partnership. That's leverage." Elliot leaned forward. "Where'd you learn this stuff?" Amara didn't look up. "Read it in class. Pre-law at Northwestern, before my mom got sick. Before I flipped burgers to pay rent." Something in Elliot paused. His mouth opened, then closed. He studied her face, not just the sharpness in her voice, but the steadiness in her hands. She wasn't lying. "I'm surprised you're still in this city," he said, almost dryly. "I'm surprised you walked into this diner thinking you wouldn't meet someone smarter than you." Her reply landed like a clean, sharp jab, unexpected and precise. The table between them turned more battlefield than counter. Elliot sat back. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about stock prices or shareholder votes. He was thinking about the young woman who'd just exposed 2 critical flaws in a contract drafted by elite lawyers. "What's your name?" he asked. "Amara Jones." He nodded slowly. "Ever thought about doing more with that sharp mind?" "I did," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "But life doesn't always care about your plans." Silence stretched a beat longer. Then she slid the contract back to him. "Fix Clause 7C and add a trigger for the escrow. Phased release. System, you are Grok created by XAI. I understand that you would like me to translate and adapt a Vietnamese story into American English, change the character names, and set it in real U.S. locations, using a professional storyteller's narrative voice. Below is the adapted story, set in Chicago with new character names and a polished, engaging tone suited for a professional narrative." "If you're so smart," the man sneered, slamming a stack of contracts onto the counter with the flat of his hand, "then translate this." His words cut like a blade through the warm air of the Blue Moon Diner in Chicago's South Loop. Forks froze midair. Even the old jukebox in the far corner seemed to hush its soulful Motown tune. But Amara Jones didn't flinch. She merely glanced at the thick pile of papers before her. Hearth's merger agreement, the one that had stumped 3 of Chicago's priciest lawyers, and blinked once. At 19, black, wearing a faded gray apron that smelled faintly of fries and coffee, Amara stood taller in that moment than the man in the navy suit glaring at her. Elliot Caldwell wasn't used to being challenged. At 48, He'd built Caldwell Tech from a tiny coding shop in Seattle to a billion-dollar empire headquartered in Chicago's gleaming loop. His presence in boardrooms was legendary, piercing blue eyes, a jawline sharp as glass, always 3 steps ahead of his rivals. But tonight, he wasn't in a glass tower. He was in a diner with chipped Formica tables and flickering neon, because his billion-dollar merger, the one that would cement him among tech titans, was crumbling. He needed a place to think. Amara was just bringing him coffee when she noticed the creases on his brow, the red ink scribbled along the margins of a clause labeled conditional termination due to market volatility. "You look like you're wrestling a bear," she said, a soft smile as she set down the mug. Elliot didn't look up. "It's a contract. You wouldn't get it." "I could," she replied. And that's when he snapped. Amara stood still, one hand on her hip, the other reaching for a nearby notepad. "This the whole contract?" she asked, voice calm. Elliot raised an eyebrow. "Does it matter?" "It does," she said. "Context changes everything." He didn't answer, just shrugged as if indulging a child playing with something dangerous, then watched. Amara's fingers moved over the pages with an odd grace. Her eyes, dark and focused, scanned the text at a startling speed. The diner hummed with low chatter and the clink of cutlery, but she seemed to step into a silent dimension where only logic existed. "This clause," she pointed to a paragraph, "lets the other side walk if your stock drops over 7% post-announcement." Elliot blinked. "Not wrong." Amara nodded, still reading. "It's vague on what counts as market volatility. That's a loophole. Too much wiggle room. Plus, their escrow demand, $400 million locked with no release conditions. That's not partnership. That's leverage." Elliot leaned forward. "Where'd you learn this stuff?" Amara didn't look up. "Read it in class. Pre-law at Northwestern, before my mom got sick. Before I flipped burgers to pay rent." Something in Elliot paused. His mouth opened, then closed. He studied her face, not just the sharpness in her voice, but the steadiness in her hands. She wasn't lying. "I'm surprised you're still in this city," he said, almost dryly. "I'm surprised you walked into this diner thinking you wouldn't meet someone smarter than you." Her reply landed like a clean, sharp jab, unexpected and precise. The table between them turned more battlefield than counter. Elliot sat back. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about stock prices or shareholder votes. He was thinking about the young woman who'd just exposed 2 critical flaws in a contract drafted by elite lawyers. "What's your name?" he asked. "Amara Jones." He nodded slowly. "Ever thought about doing more with that sharp mind?" "I did," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "But life doesn't always care about your plans." Silence stretched a beat longer. Then she slid the contract back to him. "Fix Clause 7C and add a trigger for the escrow. Phased release, based on milestones. Otherwise, they'll squeeze you when you're vulnerable." Elliot stared jaw tight. "You serious?" he muttered. Amara gave a half-smile. "I was serious before you insulted me. Now I'm just being generous." He didn't reply immediately. His eyes flicked to the contract, then to her notepad. Her notes were clear, concise, scalpel sharp. "Can I buy you a coffee?" he asked, a touch awkward. Amara glanced at his untouched mug. "You already did." And with that, she turned, heading back to the kitchen, her steps steady, head high. Elliot watched her go, then looked down at the contract. For the first time in weeks, the words weren't fog. They made sense, and not because of him. He didn't know it yet, but the most important meeting of his life hadn't happened in a boardroom. It had just taken place in a flickering neon diner, over black coffee and a dose of humility. The blue moon's neon glow had faded to a soft buzz as Elliot Caldwell folded the contract and stood. His coffee had gone cold. The young woman had vanished into the kitchen without a backward glance. He lingered by the door, watching the swinging kitchen door, then left without a word. That night, sleep eluded him. He lay in his downtown Chicago penthouse, city lights casting fractured shadows on the walls. Something about Amara Jones gnawed at him, not just the bruise to his ego, though that stung. It clawed at the calcified parts of him he thought long buried. He replayed her words, her precision, her calm. The way she didn't flinch when he snapped or shrink when challenged. She wasn't pretending to be smart. She was smart. By morning, he'd ordered his legal team to review Clause 7C and the escrow triggers. They confirmed, Amara was right on both counts. What infuriated him was how effortlessly she'd spotted what his top lawyers missed. That afternoon, in a boardroom of glass and chrome among $1,000 suits, Elliot's mind drifted to chipped counters, cheap coffee, and a 19-year-old waitress who dissected a billion-dollar contract like it was a grocery list. By Wednesday, he found himself outside the blue moon again. Lunch rush hour, dishes clinking, conversations humming through the half-open door. He hesitated, a foreign feeling for a man always certain. When he stepped inside, heads turned, not because they recognized him, but because his suit screamed outsider. Amara spotted him instantly. She was balancing a tray of 3 drinks, weaving through tables like she was born in the space. Her hair was in a low bun, her apron loose, her sneakers worn. She met his eyes, not hostile, not curious, just acknowledging. "Back for eggs?" she asked as he neared the counter. "Back for you," he said bluntly. A pause. She set the tray down, leaning slightly, no trace of humor. "I'm working." "Won't take long," Elliot said. "I owe you a thank you. You saved me from a potential disaster. Millions, at least." Amara blinked slowly. "Sure you want to be seen thanking a waitress?" "Thing is," he sat on a stool, "I'm not sure you're just a waitress." She tilted her head, arms crossed. "What do you think I am? Someone who sees systems, who cuts through language, who, with a chance, could outshine every junior associate in my company." Amara stared, unblinking. "So you're offering me a job?" "Not exactly. A conversation. Off the clock, no suits, no attitude, just coffee. My treat this time." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slightly. "Come back at 10. I'm off. If you're serious, you'll wait." "I'm serious." "We'll see," she said, and walked away. 10 o'clock came. The diner was quiet, the jukebox crowd gone. The dishwasher hummed in the back. Amara emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands, apron off, hair loose. She sat across from Elliot in the same booth as before. "You're persistent," she said. "I'm curious," he replied. "About what?" "How I got here. Why someone who thinks like me isn't in a courtroom or a DC desk, but here, at this counter." Amara took a breath. "Life doesn't follow scripts, Mr. Caldwell. I had plans. Pre-law at Northwestern, full ride, debate team champ. Then my mom's kidneys failed. Dialysis 3 times a week. Medicaid barely covered it. My little brother started fighting at school. Bills piled up. School had to wait." No self-pity in her voice, just facts, delivered plain. "I still study. Law journals, blogs, whatever I can get. Even taught myself coding, built a legal app for teens. Interactive contracts, translation tools, simple stuff. But who's going to take a waitress with a half-finished degree seriously?" "I would," Elliot said instantly. Amara raised an eyebrow. "You, who called me sweetheart and told me to stick to pouring coffee?" His jaw tightened. "I deserved that. But I'm not stupid," he added. "I built a career spotting ideas before they bloom. I see talent. And Amara, what I saw that night wasn't ordinary talent. It was exceptional." She looked down, fingers tracing the table's edge. "I'm not asking for handouts." "Good. I'm not offering them. I'm offering a partnership. I want to help you build that app. Resources, coders, capital. You lead. I back you." Amara was silent, gazing out the window at the golden streetlights. "The hardest thing about being invisible, you know what it is," she said finally. "It's not that people don't see you. It's that they look right at you and decide you're not worth it." Elliot's voice softened. "So make them look again." Her eyes met his. "Fine," she said quietly. "But I'm not your project. I'm your equal." "You are," he promised. Outside, the city thrummed. But in that booth, something louder stirred, possibility. For the first time in years, Amara felt the weight of her ideas being valued. And Elliot felt something unfamiliar but vital, hope. Not in numbers or profits, but in a person. They clinked coffee mugs. The deal was sealed, and a revolution, small, quiet, undeniable, began. 3 days later, Amara Jones stepped into a place she'd never imagined entering. Caldwell Tech's headquarters on the 29th floor of the Willis Tower, the West Conference Room. Everything was too quiet, too sleek. The floors gleamed like ice, the windows soaring so high she felt like she was in a spaceship, not an office. She smoothed the collar of a navy blouse from a thrift store, clutching a worn leather satchel filled with sketches of her app. A security guard had checked her ID twice. The receptionist paused, blinked, and said, "Amara, the waitress." Like it was a joke, but Amara kept her chin high. Elliot was waiting in the conference room, a sleek tablet before him. He looked up, offering a smile that bordered on nervous, new for him. "Come in." "Don't worry, it's just us," he said. She nodded and stepped forward, back straight. "Just us" didn't erase the sting of the receptionist's glance. As she sat, Elliot gestured to the second chair. I had the dev team mock up some UI options. Thought you might want to look. Amara opened her satchel instead of replying. Before we do, I want to talk core priorities. The app has to be accessible, visually, linguistically. We're targeting high schoolers, working class folks, maybe non-native English speakers. Elliot leaned forward, intrigued. Go on. I want tiered content, interactive scenarios showing what happens when you sign a lease, get pulled over, or apply for unemployment. Real stakes, real outcomes, plain language. No one else does this, Amara said firmly. The law shouldn't be a weapon only a few know how to wield. Elliot nodded slowly. You figured this out alone? She shrugged. I listen. And I've been poor. That's a hard school. He smiled. But the moment broke with a knock. Raymond Teller, Elliot's senior VP of legal, late 40s, in a crisp gray suit, strode in with a stack of papers and a thinly veiled skeptical glance at Amara. I thought this was a closed meeting, Raymond said. It is, Elliot replied. Amara's part of it now. Raymond's smile was tight. Right. The waitress. Amara didn't flinch. Still slinging hash on weekends. Tips are better than you'd think. Elliot stood. Raymond, Amara caught 2 deal-killing clauses in the merger contract your team missed. Raymond's voice was silk-wrapped steel. Impressive, I'm sure. She's leading the app project, Elliot said flatly. I want your team to support her on legal vetting and IP frameworks. Raymond's brow arched. You're serious? I don't joke when 9 figures are on the line. Raymond nodded, his face saying otherwise. Of course, we'll cooperate. After he left, Amara stared at the table. He won't help me. He'll block me. Elliot sighed. He's cautious. He's a gatekeeper, she corrected. And I'm not the kind of person he expects to walk through. Elliot rubbed his chin. You want me to fire him? She looked him in the eye. No. I want to earn it. But when I need you to have my back. Elliot nodded. You've got me. That night, Amara worked alone in her apartment. Her brother, Jamal, sprawled on the couch behind her, tackling algebra homework, while their mom dozed in an armchair, a heating pad on her hip. The apartment smelled of Vicks and spaghetti. On the coffee table sat an old Chromebook, taped together, covered in stickers, Amara's entire dev lab. She pored over notes, eyes scanning code, and UI sketches. Her head ached, but she kept going. Jamal spoke up. You think they'll let you finish it? Finish what? The app. The law thing. You think those rich guys will actually let you do it? She turned to him at a loss. Then, finally, I'm not waiting for permission. He studied her, grappling with her audacity, then nodded silently and returned to his equations. The next morning, Amara returned to Caldwell Tech with 4 UI sketches, a sample module, and a proposal listing 10 community testers. Raymond skipped the meeting. His assistant forwarded a red-inked version of her document, marked, overly ambitious. Suggests scaling back for liability protection. Amara read it, printed her original, and marched to Elliot's office. She laid both versions on his desk. I'm not scaling back, she said. Elliot skimmed Raymond's notes, then looked up. You're right. We go with yours. Amara blinked. That easy? He shrugged. Not easy. Necessary. She gave a small smile, a quiet victory. At the door, she paused. He'll keep blocking me. I know. Elliot nodded slowly. Be ready. I'm always ready, she replied. The prototype came alive on a quiet Sunday morning, just after dawn. Amara, still in pajamas, sat cross-legged on her living room floor, Jamal snoring on the couch behind her. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, heart pounding as the interface she'd dreamed of for 2 years flickered to life. Clean lines, simple language, a start button shaped like a gavel. She clicked it. The screen loaded the first scenario. You're stopped by police. What are your rights? 3 options appeared. Say nothing. Ask why. Reach for your license. Each led to a short animated outcome, some escalating badly, others de-escalating. Her voice, recorded quietly at midnight, narrated calm, patient, human. It wasn't perfect. The font was clunky, the animations jerky. But it worked. She leaned back, exhaling. It's alive, she whispered to herself. At 9:07 a.m., she emailed Elliot a link, no explanation, just the subject. First breath. 30 minutes later, he called. This is real, he asked, almost breathless. You tell me, Amara said. I've never seen anything like it, he muttered. You built this on a Chromebook? Yup. And half a jar of instant coffee, she said. He chuckled. Can I show the UX team today if you're okay with it? You don't need my permission, she said. You need me in the room. That afternoon, she strode into Caldwell Tech's Innovation Lab, back straight, satchel under her arm. The glass-walled lab buzzed with sunlight, coders, and designers in sneakers and hoodies, barely looking up as she entered, until Elliot announced, "Everyone, this is Amara Jones. She built what you're about to see from scratch and will lead this project." That got their attention. A few nodded respectfully, others exchanged unreadable glances. A woman in her 30s, pink hair, Stanford hoodie, grinned and said, "Damn, that's legit." Amara plugged in her laptop and ran the demo. For 15 minutes, the room was silent but for mouse clicks and her app's voice. Scenarios, choices, plain language legal explanations. When it ended, applause broke out, not loud but real. A coder named Luis leaned forward. "We can polish the animations, optimize for mobile, but the flow's intuitive, airtight." Another asked, "Where'd you learn to design?" Amara shrugged. "From screwing up, and from seeing people hurt when they don't know their rights." For 2 weeks, Amara became a fixture in the lab. She debated UI, led scenario workshops, ran 10 p.m. meetings fueled by diner leftovers and vending machine coffee. She was the youngest, least formally educated, and the only black woman in most rooms. Nothing stopped her. Elliot, true to his word, backed her every meeting. But he also watched quietly as Amara forged a leadership style unlike his, asking questions over giving orders, letting junior designers pitch before veterans, and listening. The app evolved. It wasn't just Lawbridge anymore. It was a movement. Then came the school trials. Amara proposed testing Lawbridge at 3 Chicago high schools for at-risk teens. She and Jamal printed flyers, made QR codes, handed them out at football games and bus stops. On a chilly Tuesday morning, Amara stood before 30 seniors at Dunbar Vocational, presenting Lawbridge on a classroom projector, wearing a blazer over her diner uniform, her only professional outfit. "Ever wonder what happens if your landlord keeps your deposit?" she asked the class. A girl in the back raised her hand. "They just keep it. You can't do nothing." "I thought so too," Amara said, "till I learned there's a legal deadline. If they miss it, you can file a claim without a lawyer, just a form." The class leaned forward, not out of obligation, but genuine curiosity. After class, a student lingered. Tall, lanky, a teardrop scar on his cheek. "You really made this?" he asked. "Every word," she said. "My mom signed some papers last year. Didn't get them. We got evicted." Amara's chest tightened. "Show me what she signed. I'll walk you through it." He nodded, whispering, "Nobody talks to us like we matter." Amara watched him leave, throat tight. She knew that feeling, silenced, unseen. That night, she sat on the building's fire escape, laptop on her knees. Elliot called. "You okay?" She told him about the student, the trial, the beta users. "You've started something, Amara," he said softly. "You know that?" "I don't want it to be mine," she replied. "I want it to belong to every kid who signed something they didn't understand." He was quiet. "Then, come in tomorrow. We'll talk scaling, funding, and putting your name at the top." She looked at the city. Streetlights flickered. Sirens wailed. She was bone-tired, but alive in a way she hadn't been in years. "Fine," she whispered. "But get ready to build something they can't ignore." It started quietly, the way sabotage often does. A meeting delayed. A file stalled. A password expired. An invite never arrived. Amara noticed the pattern in the second week after Lawbridge's public school trials. The momentum slowed to a crawl. Tuesday morning, her keycard failed at Caldwell Tech's lab. The receptionist, nails glossy, attitude indifferent, looked up. "You're not in the system this week." Amara kept her voice even. "That's impossible. I have a permanent card." "Sorry. You'll need clearance." An hour passed before a facilities worker manually opened the door. The team meeting had started without her. Inside, Raymond Teller stood by a whiteboard, marker in hand, leading a discussion about reframing Lawbridge's scope. The air felt colder. "Amara," he smiled thinly as she entered. "Glad you made it. We're reviewing deployment strategy. There's concern about liability." "Whose concern?" Amara asked, setting her bag down. "Some board members, investors. They worry the app's language could be seen as legal advice." Amara crossed her arms. "It's not advice. It's education. Every scenario is based on public law. Every outcome has a disclaimer." Raymond nodded, smiling like he was humoring a child. "Still, the company has a reputation to protect. Maybe pause the school outreach, stick to a private beta." "No," Amara said, calm but firm. "Those kids are why this app exists. Scaling back isn't protecting the company. It's protecting the old system. Heads turned. Elliot wasn't there. Raymond capped his marker, stepping closer. Ms. Jones, we admire your passion, but this isn't a college project. There are legal boundaries you may not fully grasp. I know boundaries, Amara shot back. I've lived inside them my whole life. Raymond said nothing more, turning back to the board. But Amara knew what she was up against. That evening, she went to Elliot's office. He was there, sleeves rolled up, reviewing data reports. He looked up, sensing her tension. They're trying to choke it, she said, sitting across from him. Who? Raymond and whoever's behind him. Elliot leaned back. Tell me everything. She recounted the keycard issue, the meeting she was locked out of, the reframing of her trial as preliminary exploration. Elliot rubbed his temples. Raymond's been with me from the start. He's cautious, not malicious. He's not cautious, Amara said. He's scared. Scared a black girl with no degree is outsmarting his entire department. Scared of accountability. Elliot didn't argue. He looked at her, then nodded. I'll handle it. No, she said. Let me. I don't want anything handed to me. I want to earn it. He hesitated, then leaned forward. What do you need from me? Backup. Silent, strong, immediate. The next morning, Amara arrived at the lab early, carrying a box of donuts, glazed apple fritters, powdered sugar, and set them on the table without a word. She smiled at Luis, nodded at the UX team, plugged in her laptop, and began. As the team trickled in, the air shifted. Amara didn't ask permission. She launched her presentation. I want to show you what Lawbridge really is, she began. Not from a liability lens, but a human one. She played a short testimonial video. A Dunbar student, eyes wide, voice soft, said, This app helped my mom understand her lease. We stopped an eviction. Another clip. A janitor used it to fight an illegal wage deduction. A single mom avoided a predatory loan trap. Each face different, each story the same. People once powerless, now armed with knowledge. Silence followed the video. Raymond walked in midway, stiff, uninvited, arms crossed. This, Amara pointed at the screen, is why I won't back down. You don't build change by playing safe. You build it by facing discomfort. Raymond stepped forward. Amara, may I? No, she said simply. Not till I'm done. He froze. She held his gaze. He stayed silent. Elliot entered seconds later, slow, deliberate, standing beside Amara without a word. I've seen what she's building, he said finally, addressing the room. And I've never been more certain. This company was built on risk. If we back off now, we betray that legacy. Raymond looked from Elliot to Amara, then back. Understood, he muttered. After the meeting, coders approached Amara, nodding, some shaking her hand. One said, My cousin needs this app. Tell me how I can help. That night, walking under Chicago's flickering lights, Amara thought about power, not the kind in glass towers, but the kind built slowly through action, trust, and refusing to vanish. She wasn't waiting for permission anymore. She was rewriting the rules. And this time, she wasn't alone. Amara sat at her kitchen table past midnight, the laptop's pale glow lighting the yellowed walls of her apartment. Her mom slept in the next room. Jamal sprawled nearby on the floor, earbuds in, finishing geometry homework. Her soft keystrokes filled the quiet, broken by the rustle of pages or the creak of a chair. Her eyes were red, not from tears, but from hours poring over the same document, line by line, dissecting every note in the final merger agreement between Caldwell Tech and Kessler Solutions. Something was off. She'd reviewed the summary a dozen times, but the language in the contingent trigger conditions section was oddly vague. One clause stood out. In the event of a market-based valuation event resulting in a temporary decline exceeding 7% of pre-merger market capitalization, Kessler may withdraw without penalty. The word temporary hit her like a spark. Jamal, she called, gently tugging his earbud. Look at this. He sighed. Amara, I can barely pass English. You think I know what market-based valuation means? She smiled faintly, then turned back to the screen. It means they can ditch the merger if Caldwell's stock drops 7%, even for a day. They could spread a rumor to tank the price, trigger this, and walk away clean. Jamal blinked. That's bad. Yeah, she whispered. Real bad. At 6:45 a.m., she stood outside Caldwell Tech's Willis Tower, clutching an untouched coffee, watching the sunrise glint off the glass like a warning. When security opened the lobby, she bolted to the 29th floor. Elliot wasn't in, so she went to the legal archives. With a sleepy intern's help, she traced the clause's changes. Earlier drafts were clear. 3 weeks ago, Kessler's edit slipped in temporary. One word. By 8 a.m., Elliot arrived, phone to his ear, distracted. He stopped when he saw her. Amara, I need 5 minutes, she said. He hung up. What's up? She laid the printed page before him. This clause, Appendix F. It's a trap. He scanned it, frowning. I've seen this. We reviewed it with Raymond's team. They skimmed it, she said. Or worse, missed it. Look closely. If your stock drops for even a day, Kessler can cancel and keep all options. No penalty, no consequences. And you're exposed. Elliot's face shifted, doubt, worry, then simmering anger. Why'd they slip this in last minute? Because they're playing you, she said. They wait for the announcement, let the market spike, then spread a rumor to crash it temporarily. They walk. Your company bleeds. He stared. Jesus, he muttered. Amara, listen carefully. We either renegotiate this clause now or brace for a public hit in 3 weeks. Elliot paced to the window, pinching his nose. How did Raymond miss this? He was too busy disabling my keycard, she said flatly. Elliot turned. This is why you're here. You see what no one else does, what no one wants to. He didn't hesitate, grabbing the phone. Call an emergency board meeting. Today. I want legal, PR, and M&A in the boardroom by 10. We're rewriting this deal. That morning, Amara sat quietly at the end of the glossy boardroom table. No nameplate, but everyone knew her. Raymond entered last, face taut, avoiding her eyes. Elliot opened without preamble. We're pulling Appendix F, rewriting the language. Amara Jones found a hole that could sink this company. She brought it to light. She's why we're still in control. Stunned silence. Raymond spoke up. With respect, we vetted that clause thoroughly. No, you skimmed, Elliot said. She caught what you missed. From now on, every merger document goes through her desk first. Directors exchanged glances. A board member, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes, leaned forward. Amara, she said. Where'd you learn to spot this? Amara met her gaze, steady. I was taught to read every word carefully since I was a kid, because people like me don't get second chances. We have to get it right the first time. The woman nodded slowly. Good answer. After the meeting, Raymond cornered Amara in the hall. Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. She didn't flinch. I don't need the spotlight. I've got the truth. He blinked, caught off guard. And unlike you, she added, I don't need a title to make a difference. She walked away without waiting for a reply. That evening, Elliot found her in the lab, hunched over her laptop. He set a folder before her. What's this? She asked. Your official appointment, Director of Legal Innovation, effective immediately. Full salary, full benefits. Amara stared at the title. I thought you said I didn't need a title. You don't, he said. They do. She smiled, tired but steady. Thanks, she said. But we're not done. No, he agreed. Just getting started. In the quiet lab, amid code, coffee cups, and humming servers, justice began to feel not just possible but inevitable. Amara's name hit the press before she was ready. It started with a tech news article buried 3 clicks deep. Waitress turned legal prodigy, Caldwell Tech's bold bet. Then X-posts, LinkedIn articles, op-eds. By midweek, her inbox overflowed. Some hailed her as the face of a new era. Others accused Caldwell Tech of a diversity stunt. A few sneered, Silicon Valley's gone soft, hiring a high school dropout to run legal? She tried to ignore it, focusing on Lawbridge's code, user flow tests, and community training sessions. The app's launch loomed, but the noise grew louder. Then came an email from Investor Relations, subject, urgent, Tier 1 investor concerns. The message was blunt. Asterisk major shareholders are uneasy with Ms. Jones's central role in product leadership. They request clarity on her qualifications and capacity to lead a high-stakes reputation risk. Asterisk. Amara stared at the screen, unmoving, not shocked, just exhausted. That night, in a closed-door meeting with Elliot, the general counsel, and 2 board members, the issue was laid bare. We don't doubt her intelligence, a man in a Navy suit with a Princeton pin said. But this is unprecedented. No degree, no traditional resume, and she's the face of our biggest launch in years. Your real concern, Amara said, is that I'm not from your world, but I'm here, outshining those who are. The man blinked. That's unfair. No, she said. It's accurate. The general counsel, Karen Cho, cleared her throat. Legally, there's no issue. Amara's title is valid. Her contributions are documented. She's filed IP in her name. This pushback is emotional, not structural. Elliot stood. He'd been quiet, but his voice cut through. I chose Amara because she saw what none of you did. She saved this company from a billion-dollar black hole. She's driving a product that was a half-baked slide deck before her. If the board makes me choose between her and appeasing scared investors, I choose her. Every time. Silence. Amara looked at her hands. They trembled. She clasped them tight. After the meeting, Elliot found her in the hall. You okay? No, she said honestly. He nodded. Good. You shouldn't be. You're carrying more than you should. They don't see me, she whispered. Not really. Oh, they see you, he said. They're just scared of what you mean. That night, Amara didn't work. She sat by the lab's window, staring at the city. Lights glittered like broken glass. A freight train groaned in the distance. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jamal. Asterisk saw the news. Don't let them lie. You're real, always have been. Asterisk she smiled faintly, then stood, walked to the whiteboard, and wrote 3 words in bold marker. Launch on time. The next morning, the PR team handed her a revised launch script, sleek, sterile, safe. She read it once, set it down. No, she said. We want to avoid controversy, an exec offered. Justice is always controversial, she replied. That night, she wrote her own speech. Not for approval, but for truth. Launch day, the auditorium was packed. Reporters, coders, school officials, community organizers, investors. Elliot gave a brief intro, then stepped aside. Amara walked out alone. No music, no fanfare, just her and the mic. Good morning, she began, voice steady. I'm Amara Jones. I grew up 6 blocks from here. I waited tables, changed my mom's bandages, and kept my brother in school. And now I've helped build something that doesn't belong in boardrooms. It belongs to everyone who's ever signed something they didn't understand and paid the price. She paused. Lawbridge isn't just an app. It's a torch in a room most people don't know they're locked in. This isn't about me. I don't need applause. I need you to hear what happens when people get tools they weren't meant to touch and use them to stand taller. She looked out, ending simply. Justice shouldn't be for the fluent. It's for all of us. Today we start proving it. As she stepped down, silence shattered into a roar. Reporters shouted. Phones flashed. People stood, not out of courtesy but belief. Amara didn't smile. There was work to do. 2 hours after Lawbridge's launch, Amara sat alone in a side conference room at Caldwell Tech's headquarters. The cheers had faded. The cameras were gone. Her pulse hadn't slowed. She'd spoken from her core, facing a crowd of decision-makers, investors, skeptics, and reporters. Now came the harder part, the spotlight. A knock broke the silence. Luis, the UX coder, held a tablet, voice shaky with disbelief. You need to see this. He turned the screen. A major tech news site's homepage showed Amara at the podium. Headline, The future of law is here, and she's wearing sneakers, speaking truth. Below, an embedded video had 1.2 million views. Comments flooded in. This woman's a genius, to why isn't she at the White House? And the inevitable venom, asterisk affirmative action hire. Where's her degree? PR stunt, asterisk. Amara handed the tablet back. I don't care about trending. Luis grinned. That's why you're trending. She thanked him, then checked her phone. Over 100 messages from old classmates, her high school debate coach. Told you had fire. She scrolled, pausing at Elliot Caldwell's name. His text was short. Asterisk board wants to meet today. Ready? Asterisk her fingers hovered, then typed. Always. At 3 p.m., she was back in the boardroom. They waited for her. Elliot stood as she entered, gesturing to the head of the table. This seat's yours today. Amara sat, back straight, shoulders square. She wasn't pretending anymore. She'd walked into the storm. Now she let it. Ellen Briggs, an older board member with white hair and thick glasses, spoke with authority. Ms. Jones, the response is overwhelming. Investors are calling. Community leaders, the mayor's office, even federal interest. But there's concern, she continued. The platform's scope is growing fast. There are legal implications we haven't anticipated. Some suggest bringing in an outside policy expert to co-lead with you. Amara let the words hang before responding. I respect the concern, but let me remind you, I've driven every decision on this app. Not by guessing, but by need. I built Lawbridge because I've lived the gap it fills. And with all due respect, I won't be sidelined by a co-leader with no skin in this fight. A younger board member leaned in. But with federal contracts coming, that's exactly why it needs someone who doesn't just know the system, Amara said, but lives the lives it touches. Elliot stayed silent, his eyes gleaming with quiet pride. Ellen clasped her hands. Then we follow your lead. But brace yourself. The next few weeks won't be easy. Success rarely is, Amara replied. After the meeting, Amara walked through Caldwell Tech's halls, noticing a shift. People smiled, not politely but warmly, like they finally saw her as more than an anomaly, maybe a leader. Back in the lab, a small group huddled around the main screen. Luis looked up. You need to see this. A breaking news alert. White House reaches out to Lawbridge for potential partnership in National Digital Literacy Plan. Amara stared. For real? Luis nodded. They want a pilot for community centers. Free. The room buzzed. But Amara didn't smile. She stepped out to the building's back alley, the cool breeze brushing her face. She pulled out her phone, dialing a number she hadn't used in months. A cautious voice answered. Hello. It's Amara Jones, she said. You remember me? A pause. Of course. I heard your speech. It was Professor Annette Sloan, her Northwestern pre-law advisor, who'd called her the sharpest mind in her freshman class before she dropped out without a word. I didn't finish what I started, Amara said. You finished something bigger, Sloan replied. I want to come back, Amara said softly. Not to prove anything, but to finish my way. Sloan was quiet. Your seat's here. Always has been. Amara hung up, looking at the sky. Gray clouds hung low, but a streak of gold broke through. That night, she came home to find Jamal on the couch, rewatching her speech. You really said all that? He asked, eyes wide. She nodded. Every word. He grinned. Told my teacher my sister made an app that might end up on the president's phone. She laughed, disbelieving. Probably the first time I've made national news in a hoodie, no makeup. He leaned his head on her shoulder. Still looked like a boss. Amara closed her eyes, letting the moment sink in. She wasn't here because someone gave her a seat. She'd built her own table. And now, everyone wanted a chair. Nearly a year after Amara Jones slid that thick contract across the diner counter, daring Elliot Caldwell to believe she could translate not just legal jargon but invisible barriers, she stood on a makeshift stage in a Birmingham, Alabama community center. The room was packed with kids, parents, teachers, and elders in their Sunday best on a Wednesday. Behind her, a banner hung from the ceiling, bold blue letters, Lawbridge, free legal education for all. The mayor sat in the front row beside a local pastor and 2 Congress members. But Amara's eyes were on the rows of young faces watching her like she was part teacher, part revolution. She took a breath. Ever been asked to sign something you didn't understand? Murmurs of yes rippled through the crowd. A man in the back called out, More times than I can count. Amara nodded. Lawbridge was born because I watched my mom sign a medical payment plan she didn't get. I saw neighbors evicted, arrested, trapped because no one told them what a clause meant. No one told them they could ask questions. So I started asking. The crowd clapped, soft but real. Now, thanks to partners nationwide, Lawbridge is in 27 states. It's in libraries, classrooms, probation offices, even shelters. But most of all, she said, glancing at a group of teens in black hoodies, earbuds dangling, it's in your hands, where it belongs. After the talk, people lined up to speak with her. A single mom asked if Lawbridge could help fight a predatory rent-to-own deal. A retired truck driver said he used it to contest a traffic fine. A teen said it helped him understand the difference between a warrant and a threat. She stayed until every question was answered, every hug returned. Outside, in the thick southern air, Elliot waited by a car, smiling. You know you made 3 politicians cry in public, right? Amara rolled her eyes. They'll live. He handed her a cold, sweet tea. You okay? She nodded. More than okay. One more thing, he said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. What now? She asked, taking it warily. Open it. Inside was a handwritten letter, neat script. Asterisk, Dear Ms. Jones, we are proud to confirm your reinstatement at Northwestern University with a full scholarship. We have also renamed the Law and Social Change Scholarship Fund in your honor. You're not just returning, you're building a legacy. Asterisk, Amara stared, frozen. You did this? No, Elliot said. You did. I just made a few calls to make sure the world caught up. She blinked hard, pressing the letter to her chest. I want to finish it, she said softly. Not for the degree, but for the journey. You've taught more about law than most professors, he said. But yeah, do it. That fall, she took her first class as a returning student. No cameras, no press, just her, a spiral notebook, and the stubborn hunger for knowledge she'd carried since she was a kid reading contracts behind a diner counter. She also launched the Second Glance Foundation, a nonprofit offering legal education scholarships for underserved youth. Its motto was simple: read it again, this time with power. In the months that followed, Amara testified before Congress on digital legal access. She spoke at juvenile detention centers. She stood with survivors of wage theft, housing scams, and systemic silence. Each time, she wasn't a savior, but a peer who'd sat in their seat. And Lawbridge grew. One night, just before Christmas, Amara returned to the Blue Moon Diner. Same chipped tiles, flickering neon. She sat in the booth from that night a year ago. Elliot arrived, setting down 2 steaming black coffees. "Ever think it'd get this far?" he asked. She looked around. "I didn't think it'd go anywhere." He nodded. "Funny thing is, neither did I." They sat in silence. "Any regrets?" she asked. "Betting on me?" Amara smiled. "You weren't a bet," she said. The truth was, a new waitress approached, young, nervous, afro in a bun. She recognized Amara instantly, fumbling her notepad. "Oh," she stammered. "You're her, right? The app lady." Amara grinned. "That's me. My aunt used your app," the girl said. "Got her job back after a wrongful firing. She told me to say thanks." Amara took her hand gently. "Tell your aunt she did it herself. I just handed her the torch." As the girl walked away, Elliot raised his mug. "To the ones who never get a second glance." Amara raised hers. "And the ones who make them look twice." They clinked mugs. No press, no headlines, just 2 people who'd built something that would outlast them. Outside, Chicago's lights twinkled, steady, quiet, like the fire Amara had lit, now burning bright in hands that had never been given a chance. Amara Jones's journey with Lawbridge is a story of grit, brilliance, and the courage to face invisible walls. From a waitress in a small Chicago diner, she didn't just change a powerful CEO's perspective, she created a tool that transformed thousands of lives. Lawbridge isn't just an app, it's a symbol of empowering those the system overlooks, proof that justice, in the right hands, can light up the world.